What's up, y'all? So I had to change some things around because Thanksgiving kind of ran. I mean, granted, it was just me, but I had to like do stuff around the house, so that's why I didn't do this video yesterday. And I figured since I'm not at my other house where I have like an actual TV, I've decided I'm gonna save not first class, Days of Future Past. I might do that maybe next Tuesday, and then we'll do Evil Bong next Friday. I'll switch it around so we can at least. I do want to watch that, so I might do Days of Future Past on Tuesday. So today I'll do First Class tonight, like not even tonight, probably like later, but today I'm reviewing Anabelle Creation, and I gotta say, I finally fucking like one. Finally a Conjuring spinoff I actually like. I don't love it. It still has some issues. Like, I kind of have to agree with my friend Mar on it, that it doesn't necessarily need to exist. But I will say, it is fucking, of the fucking ones I've been watching, it is definitely fucking better. Like, it is finally one I like. And this is what the first one should have been. Because it actually, granted, we don't necessarily need to see her backstory, but if you're gonna do that, at least do that. And you know what? This one had some world building, some lore. That alone made me happy. Like, oh wow, there's some actual fucking lore finally. So, Samuel and Esther's daughter Anabelle gets killed in the beginning. Pretty, like, I was gotta say, some of the kills are pretty, like, the scene where you see Esther's body just hanging, and you see like her innards hanging. Like, they didn't hold back on that. Or the scene where Samuel died. You don't see him die, but you see like his hands, like his fingers, like fucking break and go backwards. Like, it's like, all right, movie. You're actually, and the scares, I'll be honest, the scares are decent. They don't feel like just generic scares that we were getting with like the Nun movies or the first Annabelle. They actually felt like they were trying with the scares in this one. I like the idea of an orphanage too. Samuel, and after what happened with Annabelle, their daughter, Sam and Esther decide to make an orphanage. Granted, a lot of the orphans, you don't really know their names. I will give the movie that kind of a negative. The only orphans you really care about are Janice, who's the one who gets possessed, and I don't remember her name. And the other girl, I'll just say the main girl, who was actually pretty good. For like kid actors, they were pretty good. Like the scene where they start realizing weird shit's going on. Janice finds the doll. The doll basically kind of convinces her to find her because Janice has polio, so she can't walk. So they because there's a thing where Samuel has like this kind of like what you'd see like in like those commercials where you'd have like this thing that can like help you downstairs. So he has that for Janice, but then she unwittingly releases a demon which possesses her, so now she's able to walk. And then this is where we find out the truth that later in the movie, I love the scene where Esther goes into it, where she explains what happened and that they prayed for her daughter to just some kind of glimpse, and a demon answered, but they didn't know it was a demon. So they bought this doll and put her soul into the doll. So throughout the film, like initially, everything seemed fine. Like, their daughter's back and everything seemed normal. But then one night they realized she was evil because Esther lost her eye. You don't actually see her lose her eye. You just kind of see her, you hear her scream. Samuel finds her and you see her like a lot of blood. And I do like that, like the practical effects for this movie are really good. Decent characters too, like Samuel's a good character. Granted, I kind of wanted him to make it a little bit to like the final act, but it's fine. Sister Charlotte's decent. Janice, the main kid, or one of the kid characters, along with fuck, I can't think of her name right now, but the main girl, who I thought was actually pretty decent. I think now I remember. I think it's like Beatrice. It starts with a B. So she basically tries to get rid of the doll. The pacing's actually really good too. Like I was just like, oh wow, I'm actually into it. Like, obviously, I'm not saying it's a perfect movie. It doesn't necessarily. I kind of have to agree. It doesn't necessarily need to, because it's like we don't really need to see how the soul got into the doll, but they actually tried with the scares in this. So I have to like give it credit. Well, I'll give the movie credit when I can. Like like they actually tried with the scares this time around. They didn't do like cheap scares like they've been doing in these last several Conjuring spin-offs. They were able to get most of the girls out. They seemingly defeat the force, but in reality, Janice managed to sneak out, because we see a scene later where she gets picked up by another family, and then we get a time jump where she possessed Annie. If you remember the girl from the last movie, because they end basically with. I do like this shot where we kind of get the other side. Like, if you remember that scene in the last film where the mom, I'll be honest, kind of forgot her name. The mom from that movie wakes up because she hears a neighbor scream. They actually kind of show what happens from their perspective. I did like that. So overall, it's a decent movie. I don't think I'm gonna rush to watch it again. I'm probably gonna still mainly stick to the the main Conjuring movies. But if you're gonna watch any of the Conjuring spinoffs, just watch this one. I'm gonna watch 3. Obviously, Annabelle Comes Home. We'll see if that one's decent. If they can keep the streak, I don't know. I don't think they will. I have a feeling it's gonna be shit, but we'll see. But this one is all right. So I would say you could watch it as a spin-off and then kind of separate it. But yeah, overall, I would give this one like a 7. It's actually one. It was actually decent, and I'm gonna give the big props. They actually tried with the scares this time around, because that's one of my main complaints a lot with both Nun movies and the first Annabelle, is that yeah, the scares are just so generic. Like, they just felt like generic scares. But this time around, they actually somewhat tried with the scares this time around. Um, and the characters were decent. And obviously, they're not the Warrens or any of the characters from those first 2 Conjuring, even the third one to a degree. But they still had decent characters in this movie, at least enough to follow. And I like the idea of the whole orphanage thing. I actually thought it was a nice way to make it creepy. But yeah, this definitely, I want to still say it, this should have been the first Conjuring movie. Honestly, this is what this feels like to me. This is like what the first Conjuring should have been. But yeah, 7 out of 10. I'm happy to say at least I liked fucking 1. Because it was a while where I'm just like, I have a feeling I'm gonna hate all of them, but no, it's actually finally one I think is at least decent. I don't know if I still wouldn't say it's up with any of the Conjuring films. Maybe up there with like the third Conjuring, but I I still think it's decent. And I gotta be honest. So later tonight, or not even tonight, probably in early, maybe one or around 1 or so, I'm gonna review X-Men First Class. I'm gonna do Days of Future Past next week. I figured I want to watch that on my nice TV, so instead of watching it like on a computer, because I don't have a TV here, so I'm gonna just save that for next week. So I'm thinking Tuesday. I'm gonna do. I don't know. I might switch it and go back to it, but I don't know. Today though, later. Actually, no. I fucking just remembered. It is gonna have to be in the evening, because I am in the afternoon gonna be seeing Thanksgiving again. So I just remembered that. So, because of that, so I'm gonna have to do the review like in the evening. But I'll try to do it early evening though, like maybe maybe 8 or 9, if nothing's going on around that time. 8 or 9. I'll do it around 10. or so, 8, 9, or 10 between those times. So yeah, and then in that video, I might give like second thoughts on Thanksgiving, and also actually really quick, I want to give quick thoughts on. I watched this last night, David Fincher's new film, The Killer, with Michael Fassbender. It is really good. Don't go in expecting a John Wick type film though, like where there's gonna be a lot of action. It's not that film. But granted, I think if you know David Fincher, you know it's not gonna be that. Like even Fight Club, which does have action, it isn't a lot. Like same with Seven. Those movies have action, but they're not like action fest. Don't expect a John Wick style action movie. And I think that's why some of the negative reviews I've seen on it is a lot of that. I think people expected this to be like a John Wick type movie, and it just isn't. So if you know that going, that's why I'm telling you right now, going in, don't expect that. Expect more of a character study, almost like a behind the scenes of an assassin. Michael Fassbender's really good in it. There is action. I'm not saying it's like there's no action, but it's not John Wick. Don't expect like some John Wick type action. So overall with that one, I'll give that one a 9. I just wanted to give a quick thoughts on that. Because I figured I probably wasn't going to do a whole video on it. That movie is going to be one of those movies where I just kind of see it and then, like I said, give quick thoughts, but I don't think I'm going to do a whole video on it. But it is really good. So it's on Netflix. It's only an hour and 58 minutes. Not really long. It's a little slow, but it's not slow in an annoying way. But anyway, let's get into Anabelle creation. So we meet Esther, Samuel, and their daughter, Anabelle, or B, as they call her. One day, like I do like that we do get a quick look at them as a family. Obviously, not really long. Like just a quick look at them as a family. That while Samuel's fixing the car, like one of the like pieces of the tire of the wheel fly off, and she tries to grab it, but then you don't see it. You do see the doll like with a broken face. You hear sounds in the background, so she gets ran over. Unfortunately, dies. Then we have like a time jump. We see Sister Charlotte and some orphans who are being moved to a different orphanage because their other orphanage closed down. And I thought for kids, for kid actors, granted there's some teen actors in there, they were all right. They weren't terrible. Like they weren't annoying kids. So they get to the house. Samuel and Esther show them around the house, but there's one room they're not allowed in. And one night, Janice, who has polio, finds this room, and this is where she finds the doll, surrounded by a bunch of part pieces of the Bible, and like black, I don't know, bile, like something that comes out of the door. I did like this scene, like when she tries to get to the thing to get down the stairs, but she wasn't able to make it. The bile gets into her, basically somewhat permanently paralyzes her, or down on the first floor. So the main girl is now haunted by this demon. And I like those scenes in the movie. And there's the scene where the girl tells Samuel about it, and he just like that switch. I think Samuel was a good character. I do wish we got more of him though. I felt like he died a little soon. But I will say this though, compared to the other movies where we're like almost like 30 minutes in or something like that. I'm like, compared to like the Nun movies or Annabelle, I couldn't get into them even by that point in the movie. At least this, I'm into it a little bit. So Janice now basically is now fully possessed. Now she's able to strangely just walk now. The girls are like kind of all creeped out about it. I did like the one scare where The main girl's in like this little crevice in the dark, and you see like a figure come out of the shadows. I did like that. That wasn't, and it was done well because there's a way to do a thing like that and can make it very fucking generic. It's like I wonder if they listened to the criticism of the first Annabelle and they actually tried this time. That's what it feels like anyway. They're like, okay, let's try to correct what we did wrong, and if that's what it is, I can respect that. I always like if that's what it is. I always like when movies do that, when creatives are like, okay, a lot of people did not like our last movie. So they're like, okay, let's try to do something different. And that's what this feels like. They actually tried. I mean, with the scares, got decent enough characters to follow. Um, but yeah, then yeah, so Samuel then listens to the girl after what happened. She confronts Janice, who's now fully possessed, and we see Samuel, yeah, his fingers start to bend backwards. Like, man, I'm not gonna lie. Shit like that does get me, like, a little bit, like. And then, yeah, we hear him die. And then that night, um, Charlotte, sees, I think I could be wrong. I'll just say the main girl. I don't want to get her name wrong, so I'm just gonna say the main girl. The main girl tries to get rid of the doll by like throwing it away and throwing it in the well and trying to say, "Hey, this thing killed, um, is taking over my friend and has killed Samuel." So she throws it in there, but then it tries to grab her down. Then they put the top in front of Charlotte, so now she believes. I do like that too, that they didn't do too much of the "I don't believe you" thing. I mean, there's a little bit of that, but they didn't go overboard with it like some horror movies do, where it gets to a point. I understand you gotta have those characters who are skeptical. You just kind of have to have them inherently in horror, right? You had that in Halloween, Friday the 13th, and a lot of those other movies. So I understand you kind of have to have that, but there's a way to make that really annoying, and it gets to a point where it's like, okay, come on. But it's like when Charlotte sees it, she's like, all right, I'm in. And then this is where we find out from Esther, who's basically confined to a room, that we get the actual story. And I'm actually happy they didn't spend like 30 minutes on it. Like, it was a quick little flashback. She explains that they prayed and prayed for their daughter basically in some way, shape, or form to return. So they gave her this doll, which almost like has her daughter's soul in it and takes form of her daughter B. Everything seems fine, right? You know, she's playing with her toys and all that. Then she then one night finds out it's not actually her daughter. Like, it's not like from God. It was from basically hell, and it was a demon, and scratches her eye out. You don't see it. You hear the results because Samuel finds her with her eyes all bloody. They do show you the aftermath though. Like, there's a scene where she takes off this mask. She has like a half mask on, so she takes that off, and you do see like the effects. And man, I'm not gonna lie, it looks a little gory, eerie. Then we see Janice basically go to the other girls, and Charlotte kind of warns the other girls to, y'all, we got to get out of here. And then this is where we see Janice with holding a knife. Oh, okay, no, that's what happens. They search because they have to go look for Janice because they were told by Charlotte to find it, basically round up everybody. They find Janice. Janice slices one of them with like a blade, and then confronts the girls. We get kind of like a chase scene. The main girl kind of gets separated, and Charlotte has to go back for a while. The other girls have to. I did like this sequence. I really did. I thought it was some really good scares here. And then this is where Charlotte finds Mrs. Esther dead, hanging from the wall. Like, all she sees is the mask on the bed, and then when she walks out, you see the body. And man, like, I'm like, damn, they really are kind of going for the gore in this one. I really wasn't expecting that, especially for a movie like like, because this is like a possession kind of movie. Like, these movies aren't like slashers, so that there's usually not crazy blood in them like that. Charlotte manages to find the main girl, and everyone manages to kind of get together, get all the girls out of the house. And I'm trying to remember. I think they burned the house down. And basically, seemingly everything is normal. We see that um, Janice actually escaped. Goes to Santa Monica, gets adopted by another family, and then we get a time jump where basically kind of where we were in the first Conjuring movie, but we get a different angle where we actually got to see what happened with like those cult people breaking in. He's like, "Hello, mother." So we get that scene, and obviously they attack, and we get that scene similar to the movie, and then the first Conjuring, and then basically that's it. Overall, I really like this movie for what it was, and the fact that it massively was an improvement over all these other ones. Granted, this was a year before the Nun. Um, yeah, it was the first Nun. Yeah, a year before the first Nun. This is better than those. Better than both Nun movies. Better than the first Annabelle. This should, if you're gonna do an Annabelle movie, this is what it should have been. There was no need for that first one because that first one just nothing happened in it. So like at least shit happens in it and it goes into her origin. Not saying you necessarily needed it, but at least if you're gonna do that, and yeah, one of the biggest positives, there was actually some lore building, some world building, and some lore. It wasn't just shit happens. I always felt like if you're gonna do a spin-off of something, you gotta add to the lore of the world. You can't just do a spin-off and then do nothing. That's one of the reasons I hated the Continental. Is like they didn't add to the lore of the world at all. So at least this one somewhat does. So very much enjoyed it. I really love this one. It's probably my favorite of the spin-offs. It has some issues, like I said, little issues. Some of the characters aren't great. Um, it doesn't necessarily justify its existence because we didn't necessarily need to see Annabelle's origin at the same time. You know, but what it was, I really liked it. Um, Probably the only spinoff I'm gonna watch. I'm gonna watch 3, but I have a feeling that one's gonna go back to being shit. And then I heard Curse of La Lorna, which is basically I think that's the last one. Also heard that was also shit. So it's like basically I have a feeling we're gonna go back to shit though. So we'll see. At least this one was decent. So 7 out of 10. I'd watch it again maybe. I don't think I'd rush to watch it again, but I'd watch it again. So other than that, later X-Men First Class review. Tomorrow, gonna talk about the whole Scream 7 controversy. And then Sunday, I will be reviewing Home Sweet Home. So, other than that, I'm gonna cheers out and talk to y'all later. All right, y'all. Talk to y'all later. Peace.